Hello everyone, and welcome to this asynchronous presentation for the 2026 Site Conference. My name is Mary Spataro, and I'm a doctoral candidate at Gwynedd Mercy University. Today we'll discuss my dissertation study titled Exploring the Impact of Generative Artificial Intelligence on Higher Education Faculty Through the TPACK Lens. As an educator, I find this topic hits particularly close to home, and my goal is to serve as a grounded collaborator in understanding how generative AI is reshaping our classrooms. The Gen AI disruption that we've seen within the past 5 years has fundamentally shifted the higher education landscape. OpenAI's ChatGPT burst onto the scene in November 2022, becoming perhaps the most significant disruptor in the history of the educational field. While these tools are now ubiquitous, we are seeing a distinct lack of AI literacy among both students and faculty. Faculty are now faced with the everyday pervasiveness of Gen AI tools, often without existing institutional policies to guide their effective or ethical use. To make sense of this disruption, I utilize the Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge, or TPACK, framework. TPACK suggests that effective teaching isn't just about having three separate buckets of knowledge, technology, pedagogy, and content, but rather the dynamic interaction between them. TK, or technological knowledge, here means understanding how probability-based models and prompt engineering actually work. Pedagogical knowledge, or PK, involves knowing when to use AI for formative scaffolding versus summative evaluation. And content knowledge, or CK, is what allows a subject expert to spot when an AI output undermines scholarly norms or disciplinary logic. The core of this research is where these domains converge, the intersections. For example, the adoption of Gen AI creates a unique conflict. An LLM, or large language model, might boost a student's productivity, but without CK, or content knowledge-based evaluation, it can compromise the complexity of their arguments. TPACK helps us identify these specific conflicts instead of viewing AI as a simple binary of support or opposition. I am finding that while new users focus on basic technical skills, more experienced educators are grappling with the redesign of entire pedagogical systems. I've created an image here that visualizes how the TPACK framework provides a specific lens through which to explore the impacts of Gen AI. The visual elements connected to this study, we see the three pillars in this center are content knowledge, technological knowledge, and pedagogical knowledge, and they overlap the circles of the TPACK model. The Gen AI lens is the magnifying ring around the entire framework and visually places your primary variable, Gen AI, as the critical focus point through which to view all knowledge domains. The real-world connections are included around the outside of the lens, and you'll see that we have curriculum redesign, student assessment, faculty professional development, and I think institutional leadership is important here as well. This study was guided by 4 primary research questions. Research question number 1, how do faculty perceive Gen AI's influence on their teaching and student interactions? Research question 2, what challenges and opportunities do faculty identify in curricular integration? Research question 3, how have faculty responded to the ethical implications of Gen AI? And research question 4, what strategies are employed to align Gen AI use with pedagogical goals and institutional values? The methodology used for this research study is the interpretive phenomenological analysis approach. Because I am interested in the lived experience of faculty, I'm using the IPA approach because it allows me to dive deep into how participants create meaning from their experiences in their natural settings. It involves a double hermeneutic approach, which means that the participants are making sense of their world and relaying it to me, sharing it with me. And I, as the researcher, am making sense of their sense making. The data collection process is through a semi-structured personal interviews designed to elicit that first person narrative. And then the analysis involves thematic procedures that focus on those individual cases by pattern identification across the group. This illustration is a visualization that illustrates the primary approach of the study, the double hermeneutic IPA approach. The graphic shows you why I chose the qualitative path that I did, because you'll see the recursive flow. So the participant makes sense of their lived experience, they share it through the interview process, and then the researcher makes sense of that participant's sense making. With regard to participants and procedures, I'm currently conducting structured personal interviews with 10 higher education faculty members from across the United States. The participants represent diverse disciplines and teaching modalities from online to traditional classrooms. To ensure the data is relevant to the post-ChatGPT era, all participants must have taught at least one semester since November 2022 and have actively interacted with Gen AI through policy, course development, or classroom implementation. In the world of IPA, the goal isn't statistical generalization, but rather a detailed case-by-case examination of a phenomenon. Because I am investigating the complex, nuanced, meaning-making processes of faculty, a smaller, purposive sample allows me to reach data sufficiency without losing the individual narrative. This depth is what provides the foundational understanding of how Gen AI impacts student and faculty relationships and ethical choices. Why does this matter? What is the significance of this study? Simply put, Gen AI is here to stay. If higher education fails to include Gen AI literacy in its programming, we are failing to prepare graduates for the world in which they will live and work. This research study seeks to provide actionable insights for administrators and policymakers, identifying effective strategies for the incorporation of Gen AI tools and resources while managing the inherent ethical pitfalls. This study also advocates for sustainability. We want to ensure context-sensitive approaches that combine technical fluency with ethical awareness. With regard to future directions, my research is currently ongoing. I expect to finalize the results by the end of March of 2026. Moving forward, I advocate for iterative, context-sensitive approaches that combine technical fluency with critical evaluation. We must move beyond AI as a tool to AI as a literacy that is deeply embedded in professional development. Thank you for your time today, and I'm looking forward to our synchronous discussion. If you have any questions, please post them to the discussion for this piece. And my contact information is included here on this slide. If you have any questions, please contact me. I'm always happy to discuss the research and what's happening within higher education today. and there are resources listed as well at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you for your time and your attention.